Ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Cavaliers have made their first big offseason move, trading Isaac Okoro to the Chicago Bulls in a 1-for-1 trade. In return, the Cleveland Cavaliers get Lonzo Ball back from Chicago. Initial thoughts. I absolutely love this trade. I love this trade on so many levels, and let's break them all down real quick. We're going to try keeping this quick, but the Lonzo Ball acquisition for Isaac Okoro, in my opinion, is a major win for the Cleveland Cavaliers. First and foremost, from a financial standpoint, the Cavs shed a tiny bit of salary. Lonzo makes $10 million. Okoro was making $11 million. So this deal was acceptable under the second apron terms. The Cavs are still a second apron team, but ever so slightly less a second apron team. But a second apron team nevertheless. Okoro had 2 years left on his deal. Lonzo has this season at $10 million and then a team option for the following year at $10 million as well, making him essentially an expandable expiring contract in trade discussions. That is a much easier contract to unload in any kind of deal than 2 years would be with Isaac Okoro. So from a purely financial standpoint, first and foremost, the Cavs sent out $11 million. They got $10 million back, so they shed $1 million, which once again doesn't change their second apron status, but the closer you get to being under the second apron, the easier it is to, I take that back. They're still a second apron team. They're just $1 million less into the second apron. So now they have to shed less money in other deals in the future to become a first apron or just a luxury tax team. Second off, Okoro's deal was 2 years, Lonzo's deal this year, and then a team option for next year. So an easier contract to trade. From an on-the-court standpoint, I love this. I love this. Now, Lonzo Ball has played 35 games, I believe. That is correct. 35 games in the last 3 seasons. He's played 70 games total in the last 4 seasons. He's played 125 games total in the last 5 seasons. In the last 5 years, he played 55 games with the Pelicans, 35 games with Chicago, did not play at all in the 22-23 season, the 23-24 season, and played 35 games towards the end of the 24-25 season. So injuries are a 1,000% valid, legitimate concern with Lonzo Ball. 100% valid. The injury issues are severe. It was foot injuries. Those are all difficult to overcome. They are hard to rehab and get back from. He did make it back and play 35 games in this most recent season, so hopefully he'll be healthy heading into the offseason, healthy heading into the 25-26 season with the Cavs. But all the injury stuff, everything I'm about to say, if you want to counter with, well, he's always hurt, you're right. That is fair. That is valid. Just want to get that on the table. But from a basketball standpoint, in today's NBA, in my opinion, you cannot have, and let me reemphasize that, you cannot have enough ball handlers and playmakers throughout your roster, 1 through 15. The more ball handlers and playmakers you have, the better positioned you are to not only compete in the regular season, but to go on and win a championship. When the Minnesota Timberwolves lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the playoffs, their head coach, Chris Finch, was asked, Chris, what kind of upgrades do you want to see to the roster next season? And he said, of course we need more shooting, but we need guys who can generate good looks for those shooters. We need ball handlers and creators to get our shooters open space. Lonzo Ball, when healthy, and once again, a gigantic if and when, is one of the premier passers and one of the premier shot creators for others in the entire NBA. If you go back and look when he was a full-time starter, for his career, he averages 5.5, 5.8 is the exact number of assists per game. As a rookie, he averaged 7.2. In his third season, he averaged 7. He's never averaged fewer than 5.1 assists per game in a season where he's actually played significant minutes. He averaged only 3.3 assists per game this most recent season in Chicago, but he was playing just 22 minutes a game. If you go to a per 36, which is on par with what he played throughout his career, that was in that 5 assists per game range. He's also 6'5" with length, meaning no more small guards, right? Like you still have Darius and Donovan, but Lonzo certainly does not qualify as a small guard at all. One of his strengths coming out of UCLA was the fact that he was a jumbo-sized point guard in the old kind of old school build, a jumbo-sized point guard that I think can play alongside Darius, can play alongside Donovan, can play alongside both if you want to go super space and pace and tempo, because he could be the facilitator. Lonzo's a guy that connects everything on offense. He very rarely dribbles the ball more than 3-4 times. He catches, he processes, he passes. He's a capable three-point shooter. For his career, he's shooting 36% from beyond the arc. He's had his ups and downs. He started his career as a subpar three-point shooter, just 30% as a rookie. That jumped to 33%, 37%, 38%, 43%. And then this season, it dropped down to 34%. But once again, coming back from injury, who knows what kind of shooter he'll be moving forward. But he has shown that progress in the early stages of his career, that he had become a capable shooter if left open. The Cavs aren't going to need Lonzo to be a primary creator. He could be a secondary creator. He can allow Donovan to play more off ball. He can spell Donovan, and alongside Darius, still gives the Cavs some decent size and length in the backcourt, and can allow Darius to play off ball. And if Darius is on ball, Lonzo's a good enough shooter to spot up in the corner and force defenses to respect that shot and keep the spacing equal across the court. Now, I saw someone ask initially, does this trade mean we're not getting and we won't bring back Ty Jerome? I don't think this has any impact on Ty Jerome. You lose a roster spot in Okoro and replace it with Lonzo. The money's exactly the same, essentially the same. So it's not like he took a roster spot that wasn't currently available. And I'll go back to what I said before. The more playmakers, shot creators, and ball handlers you have, the better. So I think Kenny Atkinson is saying, we just traded a guy in Okoro who was a very good point of attack defender, but never developed offensively to a point where any team in a playoff scenario was going to guard him. And we turned that into a guy we think, when healthy, we can trust in a playoff scenario to dribble the ball. And go back to that game 2 against Indiana during that historic collapse in the final 50 seconds. The Cavs couldn't get the ball over half court. Merrill, Jerome, Donovan, Isaac, those were the guys in the game. And in those final 48 seconds, Cleveland could not get the ball past half court. And I'm not exaggerating. They literally did not advance the ball past half court during that 7-point collapse in the final 50 seconds. You have a guy like Lonzo, if he's healthy, he's a guy you can put the ball in his hands and say, get out the way, you bring the ball up court. He's a natural point guard, 5-star recruit at UCLA, the number 2 overall pick. He has the pedigree. He's just dealt with some unfortunate injuries, and he's a throwback kind of point guard. For everyone who can't stand the constant isolation of the NBA and the different ways that teams like to pick out mismatches and just attack that time and time and time again, well, then you're going to love Lonzo, because when he's healthy, he's the opposite of that. He is a get the ball, kick it out, get the ball, 2 dribbles, read the defense, find the open guy. One of the better passers, some of the best vision in the entire NBA throughout his career when he's been healthy. That was his calling card coming out of UCLA, and he likes to play up-tempo. He likes to play with some pace, and that was something I had an issue with Cleveland in the playoffs. I thought against that Indiana defense, especially when other guys got hurt, they tended to slow the ball down too much. They tried to play a slower style to counteract Indiana's hectic, frantic pace, and I'm not saying they should turn into Indiana, even though that would be fun to cover. Lonzo can play a style that would generate, at least in theory, some open transition opportunities for not just himself and others. I looked at the Tyrese Proctor pick as basically Sam Merrill insurance. I don't anticipate Sam Merrill returning. I think he's going to generate too much interest from other teams. So Proctor was a guy that you bring in so he could basically, at some point, you hope, fill that Sam Merrill role. I don't see Lonzo in that trade as a Ty Jerome insurance. It's too much of an injury risk to count on him to fill that entire Ty Jerome role. I still think the Cavs will go on an all-out push to bring back Ty Jerome on top of this move, because I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The more ball handlers and playmakers you have, the better positioned you are to win at the highest of high levels. This doesn't, I don't think, change the ceiling for Cleveland. It doesn't change the basement, but I think the Cavs right now with Lonzo Ball on the roster are better equipped to play the OKCs, the Indianas, the Bostons, the top teams in the NBA than they were with Isaac Okoro. And it's nothing against Isaac. Great guy. Liked him in the locker room. But at the end of the day, they couldn't play him in a playoff series because teams just wouldn't guard him. He proved over 3 different playoff runs that he was an unplayable playoff player. It's nothing personal. It's just Look how teams guarded him, or more accurately, how they didn't guard him. And he was, I believe, before this postseason, 3 of 25 from 3 in his first 2 playoff runs. And I'm not quite sure what the numbers are off the top of my head this year. Actually, you know what? I have it open. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up his exact playoff numbers. And then I think we'll all understand why they made this deal. In the playoffs, Isaac was just a 29% three-point shooter on way too many. And I mean that, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or disingenuous to Isaac Okoro, but for his playoff career, he was 19 of 64 from beyond the arc. And I would guess 55 of those 64 were wide open, uncontested threes. You just need something better than that in a playoff player. And Isaac was fine. He was a good defensive player, good locker room guy. But I think the upside of Lonzo is just significantly higher. So all in all, we'll wrap up here, and I'll look at some comments in a sec. It's a good move financially for the Cavs. It is easier to get off of Lonzo's expiring contract than it would have been to move Isaac Okoro's contract, because he has this year and next year at $11 million. From a basketball standpoint, I love what Lonzo brings to this team, playing on ball, playing off ball at 6'6", with length. He's an above-average defender when healthy as well, which means you can play him with Donovan, you can play him with Darius, you can play him with both. I actually think that 3-guard lineup would be a lot of fun to watch, and I'm curious to see when we talk to Kenny Atkinson if he has any plans to utilize those 3 together. He gives you another playoff ball handler. He gives you an improved three-point shooter over Isaac Okoro. And yeah, defensively, you probably take a slight step back. It is what it is. But the Cavs' defense wasn't their main issue in the playoffs. It hasn't been the last 3 years. The issue is they can't score, and teams have put their offense in a complete stymie 3 different playoff runs in a row. Lonzo is not an offensive scorer. He's an offensive playmaker and an offensive connector. And I just don't think you could have enough of those in today's NBA. Let's see if we got any comments real quick. Salient Soul says, excited to see Lonzo in Kenny's system. I totally agree. I 1000% agree. If anyone who's shown the ability to get the best out of point guards over their coaching tenure, it's been Kenny Atkinson. It just comes down to health with Lonzo. Is he going to stay healthy, and will he be healthy for a playoff run? I'll close with this. The Cavs were most likely, and they still may, I would say it's unlikely, but certainly possible, they weren't going to make some gigantic splash move. I think Kobe Altman believes in this core 4 so much that he wanted to run it back in an Eastern Conference without Tatum, without Halliburton, and see what can happen if the guys can stay healthy in the playoffs. We can argue back and forth whether or not that's the right move. I just get the sense that that is what Kobe wanted. Just like it's exactly what OKC did last year when they were the number 1 seed in the West and got upset by the Dallas Mavericks in the second round of the playoffs. Just like Cleveland, OKC, the 1 seed, had lost to the 4 seed in their conference. There were talks in Oklahoma City. Is Chet Holmgren and is Jalen Williams, is that a good enough 2 and 3 for SGA? And instead of making some sort of gigantic move, Sam Presti called the Chicago Bulls and said, hey, could we get Alex Caruso? Can we interest you in Josh Giddey? And their big move last season was signing Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency, who obviously played a big role on a championship team, and then trading Josh Giddey, part of their young core, for Alex Caruso, a guy that they hoped could help them more in the playoffs than he would in the regular season. That move panned out perfectly. Caruso was a gigantic part of the Thunder's playoff and championship run, and Giddey flourished over in Chicago, and he's on pace to probably get a $100 million contract based on the way he played this season. He just didn't fit what the Thunder needed. And Okoro may turn out to be very good. But just like Presti and OKC, Kobe said, I'm going to give Chicago a call. I'm going to identify a player I think could help us in a playoff series more than a guy currently on my roster, even if he's a little older and isn't perfect, and executed a Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro trade. Will it result in a championship just like it did for OKC? Who knows? We'll find out. But the Cavs are better today than they were yesterday. I am a huge fan of this deal for Lonzo Ball. I think Kobe Altman hit it out the park and didn't have to give up any picks to improve their roster and improve their playoff rotation. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave a comment. Grade the Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro trade. A, B, C, D, or F. If anyone gives it an F, I think they're crazy. But leave it in the comments. We'll take a look at some of those on Monday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, where we'll get Jason, G, and Jay's reaction to the Lonzo Ball trade. But for me, for Mikey McNuggets, I give it a 9 out of 10. I absolutely love the deal for the Cavs and think Kobe hit a home run on this one. See you next week. Peace.